Hi, welcome to DisabilityReel, and this week I'm interviewing an absolutely inspiring gentleman. This gentleman goes by the name of Nate Pace. Nate himself has Aspergers and has been running his own YouTube channel for quite some time now, sharing his experiences and his journey with Aspergers. Nate, hi, welcome to the channel.
Hi, how's it going?
Not too bad at all. Thanks very much, Nate, and thank you for joining us to share your journey with Aspergers.
Glad I can be here.
Nate, just want to give us a little bit of background about yourself, Nate, where you hail from and what you're up to at the moment?
All right, I am from Minnesota, United States. I'm currently a junior of MSUM, a theater major, and just trying to make it through finals right now because it's madness over here.
Yeah, it's coming up to busy time for yourself, obviously, Nate. Now, Nate, I came across yourself on YouTube, and I was watching, some of your really honest and frank interviews about your experience and your journey with Asperger's. Nate, do you just want to fill the viewers in terms of your diagnosis experience with Asperger's and how that came to be for yourself?
Yeah, I didn't actually know I had Asperger's till I was like sophomore year of high school. What it was like I always knew since I was born, I was always different from everybody. I couldn't get the social cues correctly as other people. I'd question certain social things that most people would just be like, oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. And sarcasm, for the life of me, I could never get because just, So one day I was like in the library because I like to hang out a lot, like it's always quiet. And I was like reading this book called Look Me in the Eyes, My Life with Asperger's by John Elder Robertson. And I was reading it, I was like, wow, this guy's got a lot of stuff that I am. So it was like, weird coincidence. Okay, cool. So then later on that day, I was like hanging around after school, and then one of my friend, she was my ex-girlfriend, so this just makes it 10 times better. She walks up to me and like automatically bursts out like, Nate, how come you didn't tell me you had Asperger's? And I just looked at her with a blank face, like, what? And so she explained that she heard some of the teachers kind of talking how they had to like switch up their whole how they teaching the class around for all that stuff, and she was kind of pissed off that I wouldn't tell her since we were kind of like close friends. And I was like, I have Asperger's, what? And then it just all kind of clicked, and then I just kind of talked to the folks, and that was kind of awkward. And they told me they didn't want me to know. They wanted to tell me I had Asperger's, but they didn't want to tell me at a young age because they didn't want me to grow up with the idea that that's all my life is all about. I have Asperger's, that's my title, that's my identity, everything. They wanted me to be like, hi, I'm Nate. Also, side info, I have Asperger's. So, ta-da!
So tell me a little bit more then, Nate, about that discussion with your parents, because that must have taken a lot of courage for yourself to actually address that with your parents who, had withheld that for you. So what did you do? Did you set the table and put some candles on the table, a bottle of wine, and have that discussion? I mean, how do you raise that discussion with your parents, and what was their reaction to you once you actually, came out with it?
It was actually, it took a while because it was like this whole like confusion is like, why wouldn't they tell me? Why, what? This makes no sense because my parents have always been kind of like upfront with things, and my mom's always been kind of like the sweet spiritual one, and my dad's always been kind of the blunt, salty, sarcastic, dry man that he is. So it was kind of weird. So when I finally kind of told them that I knew, I just kind of said it straight out. It's like, how come you guys didn't tell me I had Asperger's? And they were like, okay, first of all, those teachers should not be talking about that kind of stuff. Second of all, your friends shouldn't be eavesdropping. And then they just kind of gave me the whole spiel.
Fantastic indeed. So, was that a point there where, plans are put on hold and the family sit down and start to discuss, their experience with you and fair reasons for doing so, Nate. I mean, what was, what are the things that they were informing you of that maybe you weren't aware of before?
Well, they told me, they took me to doctors, and a lot of doctors said that I had a lot of the qualities like Asperger's, to the point where I can be very diagnosed of it. So my parents didn't really like the idea of the labelness, so they just kind of kept it underneath the rug, and so to speak. And they just wanted me to grow up to be me and just grow up to be happy without nothing to restrict myself.
So as you're growing up now, and we'll give it the context that you're obviously unaware of the fact that you had Asperger's at the time, but you knew there was just something not quite, certainly normal. Yeah, forgive the term, but there's no, something was not quite right. Tell me about building relationships, in terms of friendships, and family members and that kind of thing. Was it, I mean, I suppose you probably would classify it as normal, not abnormal, but what were your experiences of those around you?
Well, it was interesting because I'm always awkward with meeting like new people and such. If I'm familiar with a person, I am just normal talking person. But meeting a new person, I have to like learn like all of their stuff. I have to learn their their type of sarcasm, and I have to learn when they're kidding and when they're serious and all that. I have to kind of learn how their face kind of expresses the facial expressions and all of that. And when I tell my friends with my Asperger's and such, they were like, "Oh, okay." And a couple of my friends were like, "What's Asperger's? That's some weird butt disease or something?" I'm like, "No, no, no. Some guy from Australia has a weird bad name, so unfortunately, Herberter." Yeah, but they've been supportive. One of my friends actually, she developed this kind of sign around my friends called the sarcasm sign. So whenever being sarcastic, they just go up this. And strangely, I have a lot of friends who have very, very dry sense of humors. So dry, in fact, it sounds like they're real all the time. It boggles my mind all the time because they won't do the sign half the time. I'm like, are you being sarcastic? And they're just like, I don't know, Nate. You tell me. I can't tell, dang it. Just tell me, please.
It sounds, Nate, like you've got a really great group of friends who, not only understand and are supportive of the condition, but in fact, in the greater part and the grander scheme of things, it doesn't really play a part in, their affections and their loves and their appreciation for who you are, and they actually just accept Nate for Nate.
Yeah, definitely. I kind of tell, like, kind of like straight up. It's like, by the way, I have Asperger's, and there are certain things that kind of set me off. So if we're like at a party and such, there are ways for you to kind of like help me down. And one moment I kind of realized these guys were like really good friends of mine. It was like last year I went to a party and I was hanging out with friends and such. And it was getting kind of rowdy and rambunctious. And I have kind of a tolerance level with high level noises, and I was still in a good green zone. And apparently, a couple of my friends who kind of heard from a guy is like, "Hey, there's a guy kind of like on the stairs, just kind of like crouched over. It doesn't look too good." And kind of sounded like it. He's described him. It sounded like a lot of me. So they were kind of rushing down. They saw me and they were like, "Nate, are you okay?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm just chilling with my friends, talking about musical theater because theater majors, woo!" And I was like, "Well, what's up?" It's like, "We thought you were having one of your episodes." Like, "Nah, I'm good, but thanks, guys. Jeez, that means a lot."
Goodness me. Now, one of the interesting things, are there, triggers and things that I think the terminology. I don't really like the terminology myself, but like assay attacks, are you susceptible to them, Nate? And what brings them on?
Yeah, like anybody with any degrees of Asperger's, I guess there are always like little triggers that kind of like gets to the person. For me, it's loud noises. It sucks because loud noises is everywhere, and I have a very loud booming voice and loud laughter, and that doesn't affect me at all. And my friends are just like, "Nate, we can hear you from the other side of the building. How can you?" I'm just like, projection. Ah. But yeah, it's really bad when it gets like really loud in crowded places or small condensed places with a lot of people in it. So half the time I'm always wearing my headphones in, and I always get the ones that cancel out noises pretty well, and I just crank up the music, and I just listen to very good music, and just it helps me calm down and relax.
Excellent, because I was about to ask also. So, now we know the triggers. What are the tools and techniques that you use, and that your friends and your family around you use to try and help, calm Nate down? So, is it generally music?
It's generally music most of the time if I'm like out in the public and I'm not like in my dorm or in my home where it's like I could just like go on Netflix and watch a lot of like old black and white movies because that's the thing that kind of connects me to the world. I love it, and it's like my reference to like understand expressions in social situations. Though at times some situations in movies can be a little bit extreme towards others, so I have to learn like not really gonna happen in this world. So so it's like generally music, old movies, and I am a big gamer, so I play a lot of video games, and that helps me escape a lot of the stuff that's happening.
So, since now that obviously, that you have Asperger's now, what has changed for Nate since you've realised that you have Asperger's?
Um, for me, it's kind of like I know there's another me that I didn't know about. For the longest time, there was like this little part of me that was just like high in the corner and in the dark, and I was like, oh, who are you? And now that I have a name for it, it's like I can identify it, I can like learn with it, I can work with it, and I join it to me, and it's me in general. It's another part of me like anybody else.
Yeah, we all have them multifaceted personalities, and I think, it's just recognizing a different or another one of those personalities that we all have. We all have game face, so it's just all it is. It's just another different face, I suppose, Nate. I want to eventually touch upon the topics of love, Nate. But we'll come back to that shortly, and women, and that whole dating game thing. But for the moment, Nate, obviously you're living away from home. You're away at your student digs. Tell me, what was that like for you, leaving the family home and moving into your digs and striving out for independence?
It was a process. It was kind of a hard process because I was very close with my mom and such, and so it was just like new place, big place. I gotta adjust to it, but I came around slowly to it. I wasn't like a lot of the freshmen who were just like, no parents, I can do whatever the heck I want. Woo, drinks and alcohol. It was like, I wasn't like that at all. I was just like, boy, yeah, I'm gonna stay calm and neutral here, but you guys have fun. Just don't barf on me, please.
So it doesn't, I mean, in terms of you being on your own, Nate, it doesn't pose any challenges for you. It's just, as you probably already articulated, it's just another side of Nate.
Yeah, it's another side of me, and it's another chapter in my life going through. I have friends that help like support me through when I'm in trouble. There's like a whole side of the buildings and academic stuff that can help me when I'm struggling in classes and such. So there's a lot of tools that I have, and every once in a while my mom will like text and call me to check up on me, and that's always helps me out good too.
No, that's awesome. Now, I've enjoyed watching your videos on YouTube, and one of the things that I've found, about yourself, Nate, is just your openness and your honesty. And one of your YouTube videos was going on about, love and women, and the challenges that poses. So just tell us a little bit, Nate, about how you're striving now to form relationships with women in that initial engagement, and how to make them understand about Nate.
Oh, geez. Okay, for me with dating, I've just it's hard. It's so hard because it's like, all right, I did like a whole lot of online dating because that was a good way for me to meet people. And one of my friends, she recommended me to do it because that's how she met a lot of her girlfriends. And I was like, all right, cool, yeah. And I did it, and it was like, all right, it's working out, it's going good. And it's just kind of like I always have to talk about. I was like, I Asperger's, all that, and it's like, all right, cool, cool, cool. And so it's really stressful because meeting the new person that you really really like, and and with the heart racing and just the emotions rolling, it makes reading the situations of like romance of like such like 10 times more difficult. It's like even the whole stereotyping of like guys do not understand the situation at all at any dates 100 times worse for me. It's so bad. And I have like taken like so many advices from my friends who are girls, and I have just like it's like almost another lecture class essentially. And now I'm dating someone right now, and she's pretty awesome, and she totally understands my Asperger's and such.
That's awesome. So you know, and I think you do what, you know, everybody else, you know, is just apply them lessons learned and rely on the honesty of your friends to actually guide you in the right ways. Because I know sometimes my mates would be, you know, giving me the dig, you know, and saying, hey, you know, go for it, lad, go on, be you. And then you walk up to them, be you, just bumbling around and bumping into things. And
Oh yeah, definitely. I've especially gets hard at text too, because it's just you can't. There's no like little signs where you can understand. So I would literally have like a friend of mine look over my text and like, all right, is this good? This good, guys? Like, yeah, it's fine, it's fine, it's all right. I'm like, yay, smiley face. That means she likes me, right? It's like, you're good, Nate. You're so good. It's like, woo, girls actually like me. Hey, because I get so awkward at times with my Asperger's and such. It feels like it's like deal breaker most of the time. But hey, there's somebody for me now.
I think that's awesome, Nate. You know, and I like the fact that you know, you are just being you. You know, it's exactly what your parents wanted. It's exactly what they were trying to instill, you know, in you and in the people around you by not communicating and saying, you know what, this is Asperger's and this is Nate. You know, this what your parents have done is actually giving you the identity of who you are, and actually, you know, you found out, you know, into your teens that you've got Asperger's, and in fact, it doesn't play any part in the personality that you are. It's just a trait. It's another facade of Nate's personality, and I don't think many people get that opportunity, you know, to be, you know, to identify themselves as, you know, Nate or Steve or Julie or Jane. They just are the person who's given that label to say, you know, this is a person with Asperger's, and they're not really an individual. And I think society is used to hearing that kind of story and are used to that kind of labeling. If they can't pigeonhole somebody into an area, you know, with a condition or with a, you know, with whatever, then, you know, society struggles. And I think, you know, your parents, to me, you know, big salute. And I think they've done you the biggest amount of credit there, Nate.
Yeah, thanks. And it's always weird because it's like we live in a society that does a whole lot of identities and such, and that's like always a big deal with any person, no matter who you are and such. And with giving that identity, it's always like almost like punching a negative feeling towards it. With like other groups, they've turned into a positive and such. But it's weird because with Asperger's, a lot of it's like, what the hell do I do with this weird name and title? It's a weird gray area because no one wants to do with it. Some people go on to like, it's me. And it's like, this is a part of me. I'm that side of like, it's a part of me. And I think that when like people deliver the news of like, you have Asperger's, I don't think they mean it to like sound like that's all is your life, but that's what it kind of sounds like when you initially hear it. And when you don't have like the people to like remind you that that's just a part of you and not the whole identity of you. You have all these traits, all these characteristics about yourself, all these things that makes you unique to yourself. That's you. The whole Asperger thing is like a nice little cherry flavor topping on the ice cream that you are. So yeah.
No, indeed, it's the ingredients, and you know, just going back on what you're saying there, Nate, it's about the way that society measures people as well, you know, and it's back to them pigeonholes. And The fact that, you've not measured yourself and that nobody else has been measuring you against, the condition, I think is a really good testament, and long may it continue, Nate, that, yourself and for other people not to be measured by the disability, but measured by the individual themselves and the facets of that personality that they're made up of. I think that's awesome. So, Nate, I mean, as part of your experience now, having identified, Asperger's syndrome, what have been some of the negative things that you've seen about society in general when it comes down to to verbalizing and vocalizing Asperger's, whether it coming from your channel and the people who are watching, or maybe it's people who are around you? I mean, are there any negatives that these people portray that really irk you?
No, not really. I haven't gotten like any negative feedback to any of my videos and such. Sometimes when I like first meet new people and I tell them about Asperger's, there's like that initial jolt of like, holy crap, what the hell is Asperger's? Should I like mask? And I'm just like, no, it's nothing like that. It's just gotta get rid of that stigma first, and it's just all of that. I've mostly been getting positive and just like a lot of questions about it and such. So generally, it's been like that.
Oh, that's good indeed, and I think, just going back as well to, people who have received or had that notification maybe somewhat earlier in their life, they seem to maybe experience less maturity around the topic because they're around younger individuals maybe, or other family members might not be able to handle the news of a diagnosis. So, they treat the individual in a much different way. And I think that's really, really good, Nate. And you're at an age now, and the people around you are at an age now to identify, when things aren't being appropriate and people aren't being appropriate. And it's easier to shut that kind of negative behavior down and deal with it appropriately.
Yeah, definitely. It's been really great, and I'm glad to be able to catch on these quirks now. I'm glad to have a group of people behind me to help me out when I need to. I'm glad to have these references and tools. I'm glad to be loved and just being loving a side of me that I didn't do for the longest time.
So I'm going to ask you a question, and Nate, I ask all of my guests this question. And the question is, if Nate could turn the clock back 5 or 10 years, knowing now what you know, and you meet a version of yourself from 10 years ago, what would Nate say to himself? 3 things.
3 things. Well, I guess the first thing would be like, I made it through college, so woo! Second of all, what did we do to the college debt? Are we still paying that off or whatever? And I guess the third thing, and probably like the serious one, it's like I made it through all the crap that's been thrown at us, and we can still go through a lot more crap and still shine through the end, because we still got people who love and care for us. We just gotta stop being like shy and awkward and get self-conscious about asking help and just ask for that help, because that's the thing that kind of brought me down a lot. Because when I get overwhelmed a lot, I'd always be kind of like, I shut down. I don't want to ask any help when I'm like stuck on something. And now I've learned over the years, like I can ask about something if I'm like just stuck on anything. So that's probably the 3 things I will say to myself.
I think there's some salient points there in as well, Nate. And asking for help, I think, is a key one. Being able to say, I understand I've got a challenge here, and you know what, I need a little bit of help with it. And so I think that's those are all salient points. Especially clearing off the debt as well. So we've all been there. So absolutely. Nate, so what's next for you then, Nate? Where's Nate going to go next? What's going to happen next on Nate's journey?
Right now it's like getting through college and then building up experiences for acting and such, because that's like my dream, to be an actor and do a lot of stage work and movie such. and moved down the cities after graduating and work my way through there and just build up my resume.
Oh, that's awesome, and I wish you all of the luck with that, Nate. And to be quite honest with you, I don't think you're going to need it. As I say, Nate, I've been watching your YouTube videos, and I've felt this energy coming from yourself, and even during this interview, you're just full of energy and full of this bright shining light, and I think that's fantastic. You come across brilliantly. You're definitely somebody in my mind who knows his own mind, has got his own opinions, to me, Nate, I think you've done brilliantly, and I've really enjoyed this interview, and I appreciate you joining me and being honest and open and sharing with everybody else who's going to be watching this video. Have you enjoyed being as part of this video today?
Yeah, definitely. I'm glad you invited me, and I'm glad to talk about this. I do enjoy talking about it a lot.
No, well, I'm sure, Nate, that once we actually put this out live, that there will be people who may have some questions for you. So what I'll do, Nate, is I'll fire those questions over to yourself. And also, Nate, do you just want to give your channel a bit of a plug? Because I know you're going to keep updating it with your journey and your experiences. So just tell people about your YouTube channel and where they can find you.
All right, I haven't used my YouTube channel in a while because I'm busy with college. But generally, it's kind of like a whole vlog thing where I discuss about like Asperger traits, like a whole like Asperger's things, Asperger's relationship. I'm thinking about like putting up another video soon. It's like a whole like stigma of like trying to cure Asperger's versus just accepting Asperger's, because there's always been like a whole, because I've seen videos a lot of the time where it's like they've found a lot of like cures towards it, where it's like you're not trying to cure it. It's not a disease. It's just a part of you. Why would you want to get rid of something that's you? And I can understand with some people with higher levels of it that could really affect it. But it's something the video I'm planning, but I need to like get through finals before I work on it.
So everybody at home, if you've enjoyed watching this interview with Nate Pace and myself, make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, share it amongst your friends, share it amongst your family, let them know what we're trying to do here in terms of informing and trying to get out these inspirational messages from people such as Nate, who are just driving forward with their lives and aspiring to be the best individuals that they can be. And make sure as well that you subscribe to Nate's channel and that you keep your eye on the rest of Nate's journey. As Nate said, he's going to be continuing to share his journey. And if you've got anything you want to ask Nate, Nate's completely open to sharing his journey as well. Nate, thank you very, very much for joining me on DisabilityReel.
Thanks for having me.